All right, guys, welcome to our week 3. Last week we looked at the economics and organization of professional sports. Now we're going to look at the same thing but with individual professional sports. So um, these are somewhat more secretive with how they're structured, how much money people make, sponsorships, how decisions are made, and understand that prior to 1960s, most individual sports were only intended for amateurs, meaning that they were only, golf amateurs, tennis amateurs were the only people who played in championship events. So what we're going to look at a lot is we're going to look at golf, the governing bodies, how they're controlled, sponsorships, how they're controlled. We're going to look at the PGA, the tennis, and we're going to look at NASCAR. And understand that they're established by individuals and they have guidelines of certain governing bodies, and sponsorships are really the key for these people. They offset the costs that are associated with the events. And so this is kind of an example of what a sponsorship would look like. And this is for a tennis event. So you notice you've got title sponsors, you've got premier sponsors, you've got championship sponsors. These are all people who are donating money that help offset the cost of the event, because you have to have a purse in order to offer people money to play in these events. So individual athletes, they're not employees. They're not what you are if you play in the NFL or you play in the NBA. They're independent contractors. So they receive a check minus their winnings. They can get under the table money for appearing in special events like pro-ams, things like that. But most of them cover all their own expenses, which can be very, very hard for low-level players. They're honestly struggling to get by. You have to reach the pinnacle of the sport in order to be able to make money in it. Individual athletes, they can choose what they play. Okay, in tennis, they're required to compete in 13 events a year. Golf has 40 tournaments. Golf requires over 40 tournaments over 2 years in order to be put into the ranking system. So an example, 2015, Serena Williams played in 20 events. The rankings, that's what quantifies a player's success. So there's not really a playoff system like you would see in a team sport. So it's also a major factor in how much endorsement money and sponsorship money they get. So all these individual athletes are trying to move up their rankings in order to become more prominent. For ATP rankings, that they don't penalize a player for not playing well, but they calculate points based on finishes in 19 tournaments. And rankings they're posted on their websites. You can look at all of them. NASCAR is a little bit different. You got to understand that it grew out of the France family, and it grew out of dirt track racing in the Southeast as a 10-month season, normally from November to February. But it also sanctions about 1,500 other races at over 100 tracks. So you have cup races that are 36 races at 23 different tracks. It's a national sport, but a lot of people are saying that NASCAR is kind of killing its grassroots. And obviously recently NASCAR has taken a different deal with in the social climate we're dealing with. So it's yet to see how that's going to affect the sport. For tennis, the only professional sport in the U.S. that doesn't have a governing body is tennis. So the USTA runs just the U.S. Open. The ATP is the World Tour and is the governing body for men's tennis, and the WTA is for women's tennis. And then the International Tennis Federation, they oversee the 4 Grand Slam events. Okay, so those would be Wimbledon, which is in England, the Australian Open, the French Open, which is in Roland Garros, and then the U.S. Open. For golf, the PGA is kind of an umbrella organization that was founded in 1916. It's really a trade association that represents the male golfers and professional male golfers, and they play for more than 100 money events. There's 3 levels, and these have changed. They may be different from when I made this, but the PGA Tour is your best tour. Then you have kind of an older tour for people over 50, and then you have a second level players tour, which is people who are trying to make it into that upper tier. And the PGA negotiates TV agreements and with title sponsors. So in other words, it's not done by the individual courses. It's done by the PGA as a whole. The PGA approves of golf courses to host event, and the current PGA deal funds about 62% of the purse. So there are 4 Grand Slams. There is the U.S. Open, which rotates where it's at. The British Open, or it's called the Open Championship. There is the PGA Championship, and there is the Masters, which is in Augusta. And so the PGA is very much built on star players and star power. That's why when Tiger Woods is playing well, the PGA benefits. The LPGA does not have near the popularity or the sponsorship following, and a lot of that I think has to do with there's not a whole lot of there's a lot of very good players, but not star quality players that have a name that people recognize. But in spite of all of it, is continue to grow in prize money. So hope you enjoyed this, guys, learned about this. I look forward to your discussions this week.